Movement is the universal language. You can tell everything about a person based on the way you observe them move. You can tell everything about them. You can see pain, you can see happiness, you can see sadness. It's all in movement. There's this author called Sebastian Junger, and he states that people need 3 typical things to be happy in life. They need to have a sense of community, they need to feel a strong sense of connection, and they need to also feel as though they have a sense of purpose. This event is going to do that for me.
The SOS is a 50-mile event with 8 separate lanes where competition can be cutthroat.
On the bike, they circled the mountains they would later run.
Includes a run-up cardiac hill, is followed by a 1-mile swim of the entire length of Lake Awashbi. They face a 2-mile hill, so long and steep, it's called Godzilla.
Here, it is enough to be a survivor in the Shawangunks.
It's just you against the elements.
The SOS, to me, represents an adventure. When we first started, I did it as a training program for the Ironman. And it was a natural thing to do, living in the valley, to bike up to the mountains where the lakes are, and to have that draw of the Smiley Tower.
Good. The format of the SOS is completely unique and dictated by nature. It starts with a bike. There's 3 point-to-point lake swims connected by 4 runs.
Ready for number 14. It's gonna be a great day.
SOS is a lesson in humility. You walk away feeling like you've done something that, quite frankly, you're not even sure how you did it. You will never leave any race with the sense of being part of something like you will when you leave SOS.
I was a professional runner in Germany. My coach, when I told him I might race in the SOS, he said it was his childhood dream to compete in the SOS, and he said, you have to do it. They say the SOS is the craziest triathlon in the world, and I love challenges, so I was totally down for the SOS.
My first year was last year, and came in 2nd place. It was about as close as you can get. This race is special. There's nothing else like it.
I've been doing triathlon since about 2009. I actually was pro 2010 through 2012. I mean, I always do a race to win. My older daughter is here. She runs in high school. To be there to show her that, like, yeah, when you're 16 you can do it, but you can also do it when you're 48, and you can do this the rest of your life. So I think that's a pretty cool thing.
Are we ready?
It's humbling for these people to draw all their strength to do something that I created. We are surviving the Shawangunks, but in reality, there's some highly competitive people in the front of the race. And they're friendly, but they want to beat each other.
The 7 waves will lead from the start line in 1-minute increments. As they roll out, they begin their 30-mile bike ride. The first 25 miles are relatively flat. It's the last 5 miles that really start to set the tone for what the day is going to be like. You talk about triathlon, people say swim, bike, run. When you start talking about swim, bike, run, and you apply that to the Shawangunks Mountains, you're not only challenge yourself physically, a lot of topography, elevation changes, talking about mountain lakes. The essence of SOS starts to come out in an athlete who's done it. It's about coming back to the same place. The race course hasn't changed, Mother Nature hasn't changed. And it's this calling that first Sunday after Labor Day that people look forward to all year long. That is SOS.
My husband and I had always been into kind of doing some of these long distance events. My now 13-year-old has cystic fibrosis, so it's become a way for us to build awareness. I call SOS now my sanity saver. He's always loved this day, so it's something that I kind of do with him in mind the whole time. We spend a lot of time in the hospital in the last 2 years, so there are days when the only activity I do is walk to the Starbucks and back to the room and then sit in the room. So it's not necessarily a training plan that most people here have. Whenever I've doubted myself, you know, I'll say, Eamon, but I don't know if I can do it this year. He's like, you can do it, you'll be fine. But we don't give up. We don't give up. Whatever it is, like working on lung function or getting through wasting or getting through the bike, you know. So that's what it is. I'll be thinking of them all day.
The bike brings you to the first transition area known as the Lake Awasting parking lot. It's there where athletes will drop their bicycle, they see their crew member, they see their family, their friends, they grab their sneakers, their swim goggles, their caps, and they go head off on the first run, about 4 miles. Gradual elevation change, right up until the point where you get to a thing known as cardiac hill. And it goes from being gradual to smacking you in the face.
Oh, it's still keep going. So longer than I remember.
Once they're done with that first run, they get into the back of what's known as Lake Awasting. That's going to be the longest swim of the race. That's 1.1 miles. You can go and do other races. You can go and do Ironman all over the world. The reality of it is it's 2.4 mile swim, it's a 112 mile bike, and it's a marathon. At SOS, athletes come here because they want to be competitive either with themselves or with others. But what they don't realize is when they do this race, they learn something about themselves.
I got into triathlons around 2009. I had been born with an autoimmune condition known as ulcerative colitis, and I was very sick growing up. And then I got put on a really great immunotherapy drug that helped me feel a lot better. And in 2008, I signed up for a race called the Men's Health Urbanathlon. And I did that to see what I could do when I was feeling my best. I've never really stopped racing until I got sick in my mid-20s. I lost a lot of weight and I couldn't actually move around a lot. And I was having a hard time just getting up and down stairs. And at first I thought that was in my head. I was like, this can't be happening. You know, I'm in my mid to late 20s. I did an Ironman triathlon. I'm feeling really strong. And then, I went to my doctor and he told me the truth, that your medication that you've been on for almost 10 years is failing. That whole experience took a toll on me mentally. The sport of triathlon is one of the most important discoveries I've ever made in my life. Not having that took such a huge part of my identity away when I didn't want it to be taken away, but you don't have a say in that. Life isn't fair like that. Some things are just stolen from you. I want to make sure that I fully embrace those moments where I'm feeling the absolute best because I know how fleeting they are. This race is most definitely a celebration and return to that phase of my life where I'm feeling better. I hope that maintaining a strong body and mind will make me resilient if I do have to face that again.
Well, that's some of them.
Man, it's so cold.
Mike, you want something to drink? Water, Gatorade?
They swim 1.1 mile across Lake Awasting. They get out there, they prepare themselves for run number 2, known as Castle Rock. That's a 5-mile run, 2.5 miles up, 2.5 miles down. At the peak of that run is where you get this amazing, majestic view of the entire Shawangunks Ridge. You make your way down that second 2.5 miles, and you're gonna come to Lake Minnewaska, swim number 2. Swim number 2 is a 1/2 mile long. You jump in that, and the entire swim to your right-hand side is basically towered over by about 125-foot Shawangunk conglomerate stone cliff. And then you come to what's known as Lake Awasting Falls. It's one of the largest uninterrupted waterfalls in the state of New York. So you get this unbelievable view. And then you've got 7.5 miles to basically test, do you really want to do this thing or not? Because that's probably the hardest part of the race. they'll then encounter what's known as Godzilla. Godzilla is 1.1 miles of sheer agony. Comes at about mile 17 of 18 miles of running. You then come into the third and final swim, which is Lake Mohonk. It's almost like coming to a storyland when you look up and you see the majestic mountain house. It's been here for 150 years. And from there, you do the fourth run leg, which takes you up what's known as Skytop Path.
You got it. Come on up. 153 coming up.
Made it.
I got this. Love you. I love you so much. You are amazing.
I'm probably one of 3 or 4 people who've done SOS about 23 or 24 times. SOS is a punctuation of annual life. It's a Christmas, New Year, Thanksgiving, that extra holiday in all our lives. It just happened to be, it's also my wedding anniversary. I happened to marry at the end of one of the SOS finishes.
Ross was doing this triathlon before we were married, and I thought he was crazy because back then people really didn't do these types of triathlons, adventure races.
I didn't have any nerves at all, did you? I mean, the only thing with me is I almost started crying, and I was trying not to cry. And
Oh, I know, all my nerves were dead after the third run, so...
I remember when people would say, oh, we've been married for 15, 20, 25 years, it sounded, oh my God, these people are so old. And suddenly realizing that I'm part of that group. That's very interesting. But it's also a realization that we have not changed much. So many things about us, our personality, our beliefs, commitment to healthy fitness sport, still there. So time has moved on, but time is also frozen.
Marriage is like survival of the Shawangunks.
You have this very large community assembled that has nothing to do about the geography, socioeconomic, religious, or any other connotation. It's just a group of people who want to be and affected by this family.
I think I've finished second more than anybody else in this race, and I've done it every year that I was able to do this race, and I will continue to do it every year. This is the best day of the year.
Crossing through the survivor line, to me, was the end of a small era. When things work out well in an event like this, you sort of find yourself in a situation in other parts of your life when things aren't working out. You wake up and you ask your body to do something and it just says no to you. Today wasn't that day.
This is the toughest thing I've done in a long time, so it was definitely a challenge, and I'm pretty proud of myself.
Whose idea was this?
People get very sentimental. People get very connected to this. The community has grown this event, so it's 34 years in the making. That's sort of been my father's long-time goal, is to grow and to share this format.
2019 was a monumental year when it comes to looking at SOS in a bigger picture than what we know it. There's always sort of been this idea that, could you recreate SOS? And the short answer to that is no. But what you can recreate, or what you can try to extend, is the essence of SOS, the family that is SOS.
I believe now, actually, something that I created might outlive me, which I think is pretty cool.
Don always wanted to do things with people. It was never about him going and doing it by himself, and he always wanted to bring other people along for the experience. What people don't realize and what they're not prepared for is when they get here, you become part of a community, you become part of a family.